Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. I just want to talk today from the heart about a topic very near and dear to my heart, which is the movie-going experience in the cinema itself. We've obviously had a massive decline in attending movies in an actual movie theater. Obviously, the big marker for that is the pandemic, which obviously curbed movie-going in a really, really destructive way. With that in mind, I want to hearken back to an event that nobody under the age of 55 is even able to recollect. They haven't been alive long enough. I want to go back to the experience of watching the original Star Wars in the movie theater in the summer of 1977. Nothing existed before it, and nothing will exist again along the lines of what happened with that film. Lines to get in were literally around city blocks. People bought their movie tickets at 10 a.m. in the morning and stood in line until 10 o'clock that night to get in. And it was packed, sold out for months. And people saw it over and over again. The reason that film resonates so powerfully in the pop culture consciousness is not simply because it was such a massive hit. And it's not simply because George Lucas, the writer-director, tapped into what Joseph Campbell wrote about in terms of the hero's journey, a storytelling template that literally goes back thousands of years to the oral tradition. These things are all factors, but I think the single biggest factor is a phenomenon known as collective effervescence, which is a big fancy term for something that we can all understand and relate to, even if we don't know the term itself. And essentially, collective effervescence is having an experience with a group of people. So when this term was first coined by French sociologist Émile Durkheim in 1912, Professor Durkheim was writing about religious rituals and how that impacted cultures and the shared experience in those rituals and what it meant. In the 100+ years since then, it's gone on to become applied to and connect to a variety of secular things. We can all recognize what those things are. There's things such as concerts, sporting events, and films. These experiences where we go and we connect with a large crowd of people, which heightens the experience itself and makes it more powerful. This isn't just a feeling, this is a fact that's been documented, again, for more than a century. And it is hugely important from a sociological perspective and what it means to be healthy, engaging with other people on a sociological basis. And we're losing that very, very quickly. Concerts and sporting events have been priced out of the market for much of the, for most average people out there. Trying to go to a Taylor Swift concert, probably gonna, if you're lucky enough even to get a ticket, it's gonna cost you more than $1,000. You want to take a family to a sporting event, really no matter what type of sporting event, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, it's going to run you hundreds of dollars, if not closing again in on $1,000. Very few people have that kind of disposable income for something so brief as those things. Really, the only thing left, and we do complain about movie ticket prices, but relatively speaking, it is the cheapest form of entertainment left for us. And it is really the last bastion of this collective experience. You hearken back to watching Star Wars in the movie theater in 1977. With all of these people standing in line all day to get in. And when they get in, they're so excited to get in. It's packed. Every seat is taken. Those opening words come on the screen a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The 20th Century Fox fanfare, John Williams' immortal score, that scrawl at the beginning of the movie. And people were literally cheering. When Darth Vader made his first entrance in the smoky hallway of that spaceship, people literally booed. They hissed like they would a silent movie villain of the 1920s. It was a communal experience. When they blew up the Death Star, everybody cheered. Some people got to their feet. And it heightened the experience and took it to a level that's impossible to achieve if you're watching these films alone, if you're watching them at home without the benefit of that huge screen, the sound system, but most importantly, the hundreds of people that you're sharing this experience with. Losing that is dangerous. And this is why. Let's go back to Professor Durkheim, who first described the concept. It's been described as a state where individuals feel a sense of ecstatic, almost sacred connection to the group. And it would be considered, that language would be appropriate because he was writing about religious rituals. And this ecstatic connection to the group transcended individual identity, creating a powerful shared emotion. This is so important. We're social creatures, and not having strong social interactions is detrimental to us emotionally and mentally. This concept of collective effervescence, it highlights the human need for social connection. We all have a need and a feeling of social belonging. This is more true than ever now because we've become so isolated, which is the ultimate irony, because the way that the world is set up these days, we have the communication tools and mechanisms in place that we should, in theory, be more connected than ever. But we're more alone and isolated than ever. It's no surprise that depression is on the rise. It's no surprise that anxiety is at an all-time high. It's no surprise that people have difficulty relating to people one-on-one and having proper and healthy social interactions. We see this everywhere in the culture, and none of it is good. We're built to have social cohesion. We're built to have shared rituals, be they religious or going to a film or going to a concert, going to see a football game. Forming these group bonds, that's everything for us as human beings. So in a 2022 paper published in the publication Frontiers of Psychology, Jose Pizarro and 7 colleagues wrote that Professor Durkheim believed that collective effervescence was instrumental because it, quote, is a central component of collective behavior by which society empowers individuals to cope with the vicissitudes of life. Vicissitudes, nice big fancy word, for a change in fortunes, usually in the negative. In his view, if left alone, individuals would be unable to face existence and its intellectual challenges. And that participation in a collective gathering enhances participants' sense of social belonging. Think about how true this is. Movies, when we see them with other people, everything is heightened. So we laugh because other people are laughing. We cringe and get more scared because we see the people around us slumped in their seats, hiding their eyes, gasping, breathing hard. We cheer because we hear them cheering in a big moment like the blowing up of the Death Star, or Rocky winning the big fight in Rocky IV against the Russian boxer. And in fact, a psychologist, Dr. Adam Grant, in a guest essay he wrote for the New York Times in 2022, spoke directly to this. And he pointed out in this essay that research shows that we laugh 5 times more often with others than we do when we're alone. Think about how this is so true these days when you talk to somebody about a comedy film that they've seen, or you extol an old film for how funny it is, and then people watch it now for the first time in their homes, or God forbid, on their cell phones while they're on a commuter train or just doing whatever around the house and paying it half attention. And they say, I didn't think it was all that funny. I don't know why you think it's that great. Well, it's because it lacks that communal experience where we're hyper-focused on what's going on and we're able to feed off of the people around us and that energy. That's so much a part of the experience. Think about watching a concert on TV, a film concert. There's no way that can ever measure up to being there in the crowd with that sound blaring out of the speakers, people yelling, screaming around you, And just that whole vibe, it cannot be captured. Same thing with a sporting event. Nothing can replace that feeling and that electricity that's in the air, or the noise that's in the air when you're actually in the stadium. It can't be replicated at home. And so it fails to have that resonance. And again, we're social creatures and we need that. Dr. Grant went on to write that peak happiness lies mostly in collective activity. It's the things that we do together. And in most studies, people don't even realize that they're drawing joy from being in the midst of others. It's something that happens largely on an unconscious level. Dr. Grant, in starting that essay, wrote about being at a Foo Fighters concert when they reopened Madison Square Garden in July of 2021 as the pandemic is winding down. There was a crowd of 15,000 vaccinated people there. And when comedian Dave Chappelle came out unexpectedly to sing a version of Radiohead's Creep, the crowd went nuts. And Dr. Grant wrote that it was the closest thing he'd seen to rapture, another religious term, in a year and a half, because we were out of the house. We were interacting with others. We were having a group experience. And this is so, so important. Now, bringing it back to film, right, and just thinking about those moments of being in that movie theater, like I and so many of us were back in 1977 in a packed movie house, seeing that movie and just kind of reveling in that group experience. And it stays with us. Same thing was true of watching Jaws or E.T. or Raiders of the Lost Ark or, like I said, Rocky. We just don't have enough of that anymore. The pandemic is going to go down as a big marker for this. From 1995 to 2019, at the domestic box office, we never had fewer than 1.2 billion tickets sold to movies. And the big six studios from that time released an average of about 110 movies a year. But since the pandemic, we've only cracked 767 million tickets sold once. And we've only had 1 year since 2011 when 100 movies were released. And post-pandemic, the number is only about 60 movies a year released by those big six studios. So barely more than half of what we're used to. And we're falling consistently short by 500 million tickets sold of where we were pre-pandemic. I can't imagine anything more sad than having the movie-going experience go away. I know what it meant to me as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, where I would go to the movie theater at least once a week, sometimes more, and looking forward to those new releases, willing to fight to get a ticket to a sold-out performance, or sold-out screening, I should say, and just basking in that collective experience. And I think we took it for granted, which is a shame because it's largely gone. The times I've gone to the movie theaters here over the past couple of years, it's really made me sad, especially going for supposedly big events, big movies from big directors. I went and saw Francis Coppola's new film last year. On its opening weekend, there were 6 other people there. I saw Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another opening weekend. I think there were 8 or 10 people there. I don't know how to describe just how sad that is, because those movies, even though they were on the big screen and with the big sound, didn't have the emotional punch and resonance they should have because nobody else was there. Let's keep this thing alive. Let's get out to the movie theaters. Really hope that by doing so, Hollywood is spurred to take chances again on movies, release more films, release more original films that aren't tied to sequels and intellectual property, and try, if we can, if it's at all possible, to get back to those days when we could go to the movies every week and there would be something to see and we would have this great communal, healthy experience in doing it. So collective effervescence, let's keep it alive because we need it, and we need it now more than ever. Get out to the movies. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for showing up. Bye-bye.